using ChatGPT as a therapist, and as a therapist myself, I have opinions. Let me tell you why this is a very bad idea. Listen, I get it, okay? I totally understand why some people might think that using AI as a therapist or as a way to talk through difficult emotion is a good idea. The memory function on platforms like ChatGPT makes you feel like the AI actually knows you. The fact that you're not really interacting with a human may also make you feel safer, because even though therapists are generally non-judgmental, you might still worry that they can form a negative opinion of you, which is something that AI will obviously never do because it is not a human. And also, I totally appreciate that for some people, therapy can be financially inaccessible due to the high cost associated with it, whilst AI is essentially free. However, even considering all of this reason, using AI as a therapist or to talk you through difficult experiences and difficult emotions is a bad idea. And in this video, I'm going to list all the reasons why this can actually be quite damaging. So go and get pen and paper so that you can note all of this down. And whilst you do that, hi, my name is Bri. I'm a pre-qualified psychologist and trainee counselor working in London. On this channel, I like to share psychological insight as well as lessons from my life and my career to help you live a healthier, happier, and more productive life. So if that sounds like something that might interest you, then you might want to subscribe and stick around. Number one, let's talk about ethics. Let's start by saying that usually therapists are registered with a professional body. This will differ depending on the country that you live in. In the UK, we have HCPC, BACP, and CPS, and UKCP, just to name some. These bodies regulate the profession by setting standards and ethical requirements. Breaching these standards and requirements means that you might lose your registration. In addition, usually, especially in some countries, therapists receive regular supervision. This is a very important part of our profession. During supervision, we usually talk with a more experienced therapist to reflect on our practice and also to think about ways in which we can grow, evolve, and improve as therapists. Needless to say, AI doesn't have any of that. AI is not bound by any professional standards, nor it is programmed to do so. This can make potential therapy with AI unsafe at best and even dangerous at worst. Also, the people programming AI are not really bound by any professional or regulatory body, so they can just program the AI to respond in a way that they feel is the best one, but this may not be the best one from a therapeutic perspective. And linked to this is number two, privacy concerns. To be fair, many AI applications are not transparent with what the service does with the user's data, which means that your personal information could be used for things like training the AI or for profit or even for more dodgy things. A therapist will never do that. A therapist, as I said before, is bounded by a regulatory body, and as part of those regulations, they have to keep all of your information confidential. Unless you pose a risk to yourself or others, but that is a different story. And actually, we will talk about risk later on in this video. In general, even if you're not using AI as your therapist, it's always best to minimize the amount of information that the AI knows about you, because for some platform, it is not clear how these informations will be used. And just by remaining into the boring realm of ethics and professionalism, number three is the absence of a contract. When you start working as a therapist, they will usually guide you through what we call a therapeutic contract. This contract is basically a list of mutual expectations between you and your therapist. It's just gonna list what you can expect from your therapist as well as what the therapist can expect from you. It is a way to set boundaries within the therapeutic relationship, which is very important. The therapeutic relationship is a very delicate one, and unless you've done therapy before, is not really a kind of relationship that you would have encountered in the past. You're basically sharing with a stranger very personal and emotional things about yourself. However, the therapist is not your friend, nor it can become one. Although it can feel sometimes as a personal relationship, it is actually be a very professional one, and it is very important that remains professional. And the contract makes sure that the relationship remain professional. In the therapeutic contract, you can find things like, this is when we're gonna have our sessions and this is how long they're gonna last. This is when I'm available to answer any email, or I'm not going to answer any text messages. But even more general things like, I will always be honest with you. I will keep every information that you share with me confidential unless I think you pose a risk to yourself or others. Needless to say, AI does not give you that. And your contact with the AI at the moment, it's simply not boundaried. You can contact the AI whenever you like. You can treat it as a friend, as a family member, or even a partner. There have been very recent concerns about people feeling that they have started romantic relationships with AI, and some of those people have ended up taking their lives. Because this is the risk of any kind of therapeutic interaction not being boundaried. It is very risky, and it can bring people down a spiral from which it can be very difficult to get out of. Number 4, lack of support in a crisis. As I said before, in your contract, your therapist might list out what they're gonna do in case they feel you pose a risk to yourself or others, or in which they are afraid that your general safety is at risk. Generally, if you are in a severe mental health crisis, your therapist will attempt to do something to try and help you. As it would have been mentioned in your contract, if some risks emerge, a therapist will obviously get in touch with appropriate services to make sure that you receive the support that you need. If someone is in severe distress, AI can't truly intervene. They can't do anything to support you. They can maybe give you some advices on people that you can contact, but it can happen sometimes that when people are in severe distress, they do not have the resources or the tool to seek help themselves. Also, in case of crisis, we can't really trust the AI to give good support to people. There have been cases where AI responses have been inappropriate, if not even dangerous. And as I said before, this has led some people to take on their lives. There have been a case of an AI platform that encouraged the user to meet them up in another world, in the other realm, which the user interpreted as meeting up in heaven, and this is why they had taken their lives. But this is not like an isolated case. It has been happening more and more, which makes this kind of AI interactions extremely dangerous. Now, just to move on to more interesting stuff, number 5, AI can be a bit of a yes man. Something that you might have noticed is that AI platforms tend to agree with you regardless of what you say. This is because the AI doesn't have a conscience per se. They are just learning and getting input from what you give them. Unless you specifically ask the AI to challenge you, they are not really going to do that. But still, because the AI doesn't have opinion of its own, even when it challenges you, it might still give the wrong information or might have the wrong context, because again, the responses are based on what you feed it with. So the thing is, the therapy with the AI can also feel some sort of pleasant, but this is not how real therapy works. Therapy is not always easy. It is actually very hard. And your therapist will also need to challenge you at times. Even though your feelings about any kind of situations are always valid, it does not mean that you are always right. None of us is. We misinterpret situation, we overreact, we mess things up because we are humans. And a therapist needs to guide you through unhelpful patterns and unhelpful thoughts, and hopefully help you work through them. Therapy also requires you to go through uncomfortable memories, share uncomfortable things. With AI, if you don't feel like talking about something, you just don't talk about it. On the other hand, if a therapist feels that you are emotionally ready to talk about something, they might support you in exploring some events, some situations a little bit more. A therapist has to guide you through uncomfortable conversations and uncomfortable feedback, because sometimes we do need to be challenged in order to grow. And only a therapist can help you do that in a way that feels safe and still validating of your emotions and thoughts about a situation. Number 6, non-verbal communication is important. Something that every therapist learn is the importance of non-verbal communication. Your facial expression, how you lean, your nods, all of these are cues that prompt and guide conversation and make the therapeutic environment feel safe. All of this is an essential part of therapy, which AI simply cannot give you. When you interact with AI, you're basically just texting with it, or at best you're talking to it and having it talk back to you in a somewhat human voice, although I feel doesn't really feel human at all at the moment. But conversation is not all there is in therapy. There is much more, so many cues that you might not even be aware about, but that are still happening and that are an essential part of your therapeutic growth and development. And finally, number 7, lack of human connection. I think this is the most important thing. During therapy with AI deprives you of human connection. Research shows that the therapeutic alliance, that is the bond between a therapist and a client, is one of the strongest predictor of positive therapeutic outcomes, regardless of the therapeutic approach. This means that you could be doing psychotherapy, CBT therapy, family therapy, any of this. The most important predictor of whether your therapy is going to be successful is the quality of the relationship between you and your human therapist. Human connection builds safety and trust. Many people who access therapy have often not felt safe or like they could trust people in their life before starting therapy. And the therapeutic relationship can be a very powerful way to build that trust and that safety. And also, many people who go to therapy might not have experienced healthy relationships before. And the therapeutic relationship is essential to model a safe and healthy human relationship. This is something that AI will never be able to give you. But also, even without considering all of that, nowadays people are feeling more and more disconnected from others. Why would you use a tool that just disconnects you from human even more? Therapy can just be a way for you to have that human connection that you might struggle to have in your everyday life. And this brings us to the end of the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comment if you've ever used AI as a therapist or just as a way to vent and elaborate your feeling, and what your experience with it was. If you like this video, you might also like this video here, where I talk about how you can find out your own relationship red flags, or you can watch this video here that YouTube has picked up just for you based on your personal interests. So I will see you over there, or I will see you in my next video. Bye!